Ladies and gentlemen, baseball only show. We've done many episodes. I lose count. We don't have a counter. Charlie's not here to count episodes. It's probably like episode 6 or 7. Um, Fire Frank with me. Fire Frank, say hi.
Hey guys, how's it going?
JML here. Um, it's funny because right before we hit record, this episode will come out tomorrow. But I was saying to Frank, I'm like, the bats are struggling for the Yankees. We haven't had a run in, what was it, almost 20 innings.
About 20, yeah.
And we're both looking at each other. And he looks down at his phone. He goes, "Oh, I guess Higgy just hit a 2-run homer." So top of the 7th here, Yankees up 2-1 against the Mariners. Let's just get right into it. Uh, I had my reservations about the Yankees when we started this show. I also said it's beyond me with the rash of injuries that the Yankees have had. Why aren't teams pitching around Aaron Judge? Now it seems like they're like the Mariners are starting to be very careful pitching the Judge. So much so in the extra innings with the runner on second and Judge up, they just, hey, take first base.
Right.
It's beyond me how teams haven't caught on to this, especially with Stanton being out. Rizzo's been out. I believe this is Rizzo's first game back.
Right. It's in over a week now, right?
Yeah.
About a week.
Josh Donaldson, although he's been hitting lately, he's still hitting about 225 for the season. And LeMahieu hits in front of Judge. So there's not really much behind Judge right now in the ways of power. So the smart move is to walk him. And this is what we're getting. Frank, your thoughts? Yankees the past. Well, I guess a little bit before the All Star break and continuing onward here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that probably. I mean, you can go back as far as you want. I'll take it back to that last Fenway series where they won the first 2 games and then they blew the next 2 games, which I think that kind of started them to funk. They lost the series to the Reds. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, we've seen a lot of games where they just can't score, and like they get into these ruts. It's not the first time that happened against Houston. They were no hit, and they didn't get another hit or a run for like the 7th inning, I think, the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So they get into these weird spells. Right now, obviously, Rizzo being gone for like the last 5-6 games was tough. Stanton is obviously missed. I know his average wasn't the highest, but the threat of him in the lineup, it's a big difference when you have Judge, Stanton, when you have the full lineup. We know the bottom of the lineup is filled a lot of weak spots. We've known this all year. It's not a
Yep.
surprise.
And oh, by the way, the guy who came out of nowhere, Matt Carpenter, we essentially
Yeah.
lost him for the rest of the regular season due to
Right.
a left foot fracture.
Of course.
So we've had some terrible luck with injuries that we didn't have early on.
Yeah.
And we made trades where I said, do not get Montas.
Mm-hmm.
I said, stay away from Montas. If we're going to get a pitcher, get a power pitcher, get a Castillo. And look at what Castillo did last night. He matched Garrett Cole.
Yeah. So, I mean, immediately it's backfired. Twice in a week now, and for the 3rd time this season already in the last month, he's shut us down.
He's been incredible since it's almost like his energy has.
Oh, interesting. Sorry to interrupt. We apparently just had a Judge homer. For people watching this after the fact, I'm sure you know what it was. But.
Oh, well, that's cool. So good segue, right? So
yeah,
Frank sent me this the other day.
Yes.
Yesterday. Sure. So I'm going to pull it up on screen. Obviously, these numbers are, as of yesterday, but I'll pull them up. Here we go. Aaron Judge in the second half, 17 games, does not include yesterday or today's game. Right. 2.3 WAR, 11 homers, 28 ribbies, 19 runs, 400 average, 985 slugging, 1503 OPS, 309 runs created, 10 multi-hit games. Frank, I have a hard time seeing because I have my sunglasses on.
Yeah.
What does that rank him in each category? In the parentheses, I have a hard time reading that. What does that say?
Can't put my finger on it. One
One.
in all of these categories, folks.
He's got 45 homers.
I just saw a stat. I think I sent you something a minute ago. You may see it. He's on pace, they think, to get over 400 total bases this year, which is something that has been done since I think Bonds did it. I mean, I think there were several people that did it in 2001, I believe. But there's only like 3 Yankees who have ever done that, gone over 400 total bases. There's another stat he's had, well, going into today, I think, or into yesterday, he's had 35 games with 1 hit and 1 walk, at least 1 hit and 1 walk. He's first in the majors in that category as well.
I haven't seen a season like this in a very long time, if ever. So
no, this is not. I mean, even his fantastic rookie season, he went through a major slump in the second half, where he wasn't hitting a lot of homers because he had a bad shoulder or whatever. But yeah, this is pretty much. I mean, he's had a couple of weeks where he was a little slow, but he's pretty much not had a major slump this season.
No, he's been everything that you could want and then some. He should get every first place vote for MVP. There should be no question at this point. Doubt, let me pull up what you just sent me. The 400 right here. Aaron Judge is on pace for 400 total bases. A season total only 3 Yankees have reached. Ruth, MLB record 457 in 1921 and 1927. Gehrig in multiple seasons. DiMaggio in a single season. MLB's last 400 total base season was 2001, where potentially all 4 guys were on steroids.
Right.
Potentially. The only one that may or may have not been on steroids is Luis Gonzalez. He just really didn't have that build. Yeah. Todd Helton, he might have been on steroids. He was a big dude.
Might have been, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, but obviously I don't think he's been linked to that as far as I know.
But
yeah, but pretty much like these are like video game numbers we're seeing. I think I brought that up before on the show, but yeah, it's like nuts what he's done. Like you said, we keep wondering why don't they just walk him? They and when they do, that kind of works, and when they don't, yeah.
And at this point, it seems like Higashioka hits a home run, so the Yankees are in the lead. Now the teams are like, oh, yeah, we could just pitch to him. But they should use the same mindset and just walk him. Like, why bury yourselves even more?
Yeah, I don't know.
The Yankees right now, they're 71-40. They're 10.5 up on Toronto. Unless they totally collapse, they're going to win the division. And they're going to be at least the second place team,
right,
in the American League, if not the first. And I kept thinking, because I forgot the playoff format changed, that they needed to secure first, no matter what. But the first and second teams both get first round buys.
Correct.
Which might be a blessing for the Yankees to get the bye. It gives them more time to get Carpenter and Bader healthy enough to play in that series. Speaking of teams that are struggling, the other team that is struggling has been the Padres. They made some splashy moves, and then they couldn't hit. Last night, they finally won a game that was almost blown. Josh Hader gave up a 3-run bomb. Machado comes up, does a walk-off home run, saves the game. for the Padres. But the Padres, they had a disappointing season last year, 78 wins. They fired the manager. They replaced the manager with Melvin, thinking that he's the solution. The Padres have been slipping as well, and the Dodgers have just been playing lights out ball. San Diego is 16 games back of the Dodgers. They are not catching the Dodgers.
No, and it's been one-sided. The season series between the two of them is ridiculously one-sided. So, yeah, I mean, they made a big splash. They made all the splashes, if you could say, outside of maybe a few other ones. I think we discussed them a couple episodes ago. They obviously have a lot of offense. Obviously, yet the last couple of days they've struggled.
They don't have Nando yet, so
right. That's big.
They don't have the pitching. They still
don't have the pitching. No, they don't.
Musgrove is a good pitcher. Is he a number one ace pitcher in the postseason? No. To me, he doesn't have the stuff. Either does a Shabanaya.
No.
The only guy that has that quality of stuff on their staff is Clevenger, but Clevenger is coming off of being injured for almost a year and a half. So he's getting that stuff back. The same thing with you, Darvish. Those guys do have the power stuff, but they both are coming off of injury-plagued campaigns with arm issues. That I cannot see San Diego lasting in this year's playoffs. Which when you go out and you trade for Juan Soto, it's going to be a 2-year move. So all the chips are in for them for next year. They really have to go out and get an ace pitcher for that staff. I don't know who that is, what they can do, who's out there. There's not a lot of starting pitching out there. The only name I can think of, and again, this is taking a huge, huge gamble, is if Steven Strasburg can get himself healthy enough to pitch, considering he's from that area. He pitched at the University of San Diego. That might be someone they take a flyer on if Washington's going to pay part of the contract as well.
Yeah, that's a big if right there. I mean, I know they would probably like to move him. I've been surprised. I mean, the pitching move they went and made was Hader, and I don't think they didn't really need a closer.
No,
the starter. They traded their current closer for another closer. That's all they did. And Hader is actually not having his best year this year either.
It's surprising that the two teams that could have benefited from Castillo the most, the Padres and the Yankees, both opted to go other directions because they wanted to hold on to prospects. But then it doesn't make sense because for San Diego's, because they traded all those prospects for Soto.
Yeah.
Which, again, if the mindset is if you can go get Juan Soto, you go get him. But the Yankees not getting Castillo because they wanted to hold on to Volpe, at this point, to me, it looks bad. Because the Yankees not only have Volpe at shortstop in their minor league system, they have Peraza, who they said that could pretty much can play now. There's no reason why he should be in AAA. They have a guy in low A ball, Trevor Sweeney, a shortstop. They have Osvaldo Cabrera, a shortstop.
They've got 4 or 5 shortstops, and they're convinced this Volpe is the guy. I understand he's their top-ranked, prospect, but he's at best 2 years away at this point.
It doesn't make sense to me at all, considering this is you could lose Judge if you take Aaron Judge off of the Yankees. This Yankee team, what did I say they were? 71-40. They're probably 58-52, which is, oh, by the way, the Baltimore Orioles record.
Good segue there. who, by the way, would actually be leading the AL Central right now if the Orioles played in the Central for perspective.
Yeah.
And the Orioles just beat Toronto again yesterday. I mean, they're playing tough.
It's a good segue. It's a good segue because we're going to talk about the wild card. We'll talk about a player from Baltimore, and we'll talk about how the playoffs are formatted. So, with that being said, I'm going to throw up the AL wild card and division standings for the playoffs. Boom. So, right now, in first place is the Yankees, then Houston, then Cleveland, then Minnesota.
The Yanks are tied for first right now. Yeah.
Right. Then we have Toronto and Seattle because one of these teams is the third wild card team.
Mm-hmm.
You have Baltimore. Essentially, they're 2 games back, along with Tampa Bay. So they're all these teams are really, really close. Actually, Minnesota's behind. So Baltimore's ahead of Minnesota on the tiebreaker for the wild card spot.
How about that?
So these are your 3 AL wild card teams. These 2 are tied for the Central. So there's a lot of teams in the same bunch right now. The Yankees and Houston can pretty much just try to figure stuff out. And I don't like that for any team going into the postseason. When you're trying to figure stuff out and you let your foot off the gas, it usually spells disaster. The only time I remember in my fandom of baseball, a team that struggled in September that actually won the World Series, 2000 New York Yankees, who had a horrible September and somehow won the World Series. You have to be going in hot. So that's the American League. Anything that sticks out to you, Frank?
Maybe a callback, I think, to one of our earlier discussions on a couple episodes ago. Look at Cleveland right there. I think we talked about, Cleveland, Terry Francona, maybe in our first or second episode. And the job he does year after year, look where they're at right now, essentially tied for first.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that team made 0 moves to make themselves better at the trade deadline, and they actually released Franmil Reyes, who is, he's not for average hitter, he's a power hitter, but they released him. It was a really odd move, obviously for salary reasons, but it'd be nice if Cleveland got some an owner there that wants to spend. I believe the Dolans own the Guardians. The Dolans that own the Knicks and the Rangers. So I could be wrong. People in the comments, you let me know.
Stuff here. Obviously, the Red Sox continue to struggle.
Yeah, the Red Sox are out. You even had Pedro Martinez come out and say what he said. He doesn't understand why they would trade Christian Vasquez, why they haven't been quick to extend Devers and Bogarts. He's befuddled like we're befuddled. And again, both of us are Yankee fans. We shouldn't care if the Red Sox are struggling, but we care because we like the rivalry. We want the rivalry to be competitive. We want it to be good. We want to chase a team. The problem is, and this is like, I'm going to make an analogy for the wrestling fans. When WWE has no competition, they do nothing. When another wrestling program has no competition, they do nothing. You need competition to improve or want to improve your club. And I think, part of the problem is getting back to the AL Central, is that none of those teams have established themselves. So teams like the Guardians and the White Sox and the Twins, they really didn't go out and make any moves of note because they're like, hey, one of us is going to make it at the end. No one's going to pull away. We'll all be there. Why do we got to add to our payroll? And to me, it's a disservice to your fans. National League, a little bit more clearer playoff picture. You have the division leaders, the Dodgers, who have just been on a tear, 76-33. The Mets, 73-39. And oh, by the way, DeGrom looks pretty good. They're being very smart with him. 5 innings, 6 innings. That's all he needs. Don't push him. Ramp him up when he needs. Scherzer. He's been lights out. They took the series from the Braves. That's what you want to see. They didn't make any huge moves at the deadline, but they made smart moves by now having a DH platoon with Ruff and Vogelbach, who have both been hitting. Pete Alonso's had a under-the-radar year, and so has Francisco Lindor. Lindor has struggled since coming to the Mets, but this year, he's had a hell of a year. He's had the best year a Mets shortstop has ever had. And you like to see that considering the amount of money that they paid him,
right,
and how badly he underperformed last season. You have the Braves, the Phillies, surprise there, and the Padres. What stands out to you with the National League? Now, the National League, if you look, after the Brewers, there's no other teams that are really within striking distance of the playoffs. I would even count the Giants way out of it at 6.5 games. Anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah. Obviously we knew with the Mets, if DeGrom and Scherzer are healthy, obviously they pretty much are unstoppable there in the East. The Braves had a hot June, but of late the Mets did a number on them this past weekend, which probably, I know it's still August, might have actually put that out of reach.
Yep.
It's like 6 games, but I think it might be the final nail there. You see the Cardinals have been hot of late. Obviously just swept the Yankees. They are in first place now.
They're hitting.
The Brewers have kind of underachieved. The Dodgers are on the hottest team. And, they're going to wind up with probably the best record in all of baseball. I still think, like you said, that it's pretty much settled. There's nobody really like approaching that. So we pretty much have our team set there. And the big key is, it's the Mets and the Dodgers. That's what you're expecting to see meet at some point. I guess it would be for the pennant. And that's the big and
you got to remember, Kershaw has been hurt.
Right.
He'll come back, and then he gets hurt. Who's their number one? Walker Buehler's been hurt most of the year as well. They've relied on guys like Tyler Anderson and Gosselin to anchor the staff. Those guys have never really pitched in the postseason. They've never been number ones. They don't have overpowering stuff. You have them matched against a Scherzer and a DeGrom in a playoff series. What's going to happen?
the key.
Clearly, the Dodgers have a better overall lineup than the Mets.
Right, but when you have those two guys, if you take one of them away, like I said, if Brown couldn't have gotten healthy, and he did, if he wasn't, then you have more of a question. But like you said, that those two each going twice in a 7-game series.
Yep.
That could be. I know Scherzer's had his ups and downs in the postseason, but those two back to back, that's a tough call for the Dodgers, who do score a lot, obviously. But if you shut them down, the pitching tends to favor the Mets here. So that should be interesting to see the rest of the way how those two guys are looking going into the postseason.
And oh, by the way, Edwin Diaz is putting together a hell of a year as the Mets closer. He's
Yeah.
arguably the number one closer in the National League. So let's just say Scherzer goes 7 or 8 innings, you bring in Diaz. It's basically a done game. The
Yeah.
Mets also picked up, Michael Givens. They have Lugo in the pen. They have enough arms to bridge to um, Diaz, and also they can. One of the starters isn't going to start in the postseason, so a guy like a Bassett or a Carrasco may not start, or a Taiwan Walker. Can you imagine Taiwan Walker? You go Taiwan Walker. You can throw your fastball and a changeup. That's all you need to throw. And oh, by the way, throw as hard as you can for one inning in the postseason because you're going to be like our setup guy. Forget it.
And that was what's been holding him back for years, not having a solid bullpen. And Diaz, obviously, the funny thing about Diaz, a year or two ago, they wanted him out of town, and he's come back and had the best season of closer, like you said, this season.
And oddly enough, he's a free agent at the end of this year.
What a time! Hey, good timing. But yeah, that's a big thing. That they're pitching, even though you may say they have holes in the offensive side. Lindor's been hot, obviously Alonso, but that pitching will play big in October, as we know.
Yep. It's going to be really interesting because the Mets and the Dodgers are clearly going to be the 1 and 2, just like Houston and the Yankees are going to be number 1 and 2 in the American League, which brings us to how they formatted the playoffs for this upcoming season.
Mm-hmm.
This is from MLB.com. This is the graph here. So you have your number 6 seed and your number 3 seed. So that's your division winner, right? So most likely in the American League, it's going to be the Central winner.
Right.
Whoever that's going to be. At this point, it could be Minnesota, it could be Cleveland, it could be the White Sox. And
they'll play that.
I don't know how the White Sox are even in the conversation, but they are.
Go figure. So they would play the 6th seed, who would be the third wild card team, correct?
Yes, which at this point is Baltimore or Tampa, like one of those two teams. And then they would face the number 2 seed, which could potentially be the Yankees.
Right. And so this series is a best of 3, and I believe the higher seed gets all 3 games at home, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I thought I heard that before, but either way, it's best of 3, and the winner, like you said, most likely, considering our head-to-head matchup with Houston, most likely.
You're right, 100% right.
Right. So in that case, the division winner, so Minnesota/Cleveland.
The 3 and 4 seeds get all the home games, so all 3 games are played at that home stadium.
Right.
Which is incentive to not tank out of a certain spot as well.
It also eliminates the need for like an off day or any travel or anything like that, which is good considering the season is already a week late and the extra round of playoffs added.
Yep. And they can also, if you get a rain out or something, they can do doubleheader or something. They can get creative here.
Yeah.
I like how they formatted this.
I like it better than that 1 game wild card. I mean, that was a fun game sometimes. Some of those games were kind of blowouts, but it gives a little more incentive, like you said here.
The issue with those 1 game playoffs is you had to restructure your entire pitching staff for that 1 game. And if you were close in the division, like what happened last year, it becomes one of those things where do I throw my ace pitcher now to try to win this game, or do I hold him back to pitch the wild card game?
Yeah, we saw a lot of that.
And, oh, by the way, we threw our ace pitcher in the wild card game. That didn't work out either. So this makes it a much easier path to the playoffs. I did not like what they did in 2020, especially with 60 games with as many teams that made the playoffs that year. This gives more teams a shot. a team like Baltimore, if they can keep it up, they are in contention. They've got contributions from everyone, even though they traded Trey Mancini and Jorge Lopez at the deadline. This team's still under Brandon Hyde, who at this point, Brandon Hyde should be considered for Manager of the Year. Him,
Yeah.
Francona, American League Managers of the Year.
Sure.
Along with Boone. Boone won't get it. The only way Boone would have got it is if the Yankees would have won like 100
faith, yeah.
games. But speaking of the Orioles, there was someone that you wanted to bring up. Who did you want to bring up?
Yes. We're talking about the Orioles rookie sensation, Adley Rushman.
Yeah. Let me pull up what you sent me. So
go ahead.
Since the All-Star break, minimum 40 plate appearances. The number one on-base percentage, Rochman. Incredible stat. 24 years old, behind the plate. 2019, he was the number one overall pick in the draft. It's taken him a few years to get up. It happens. I'm in the card breaking community, and there was a break last night of Bowman prospects, and someone was like, it's Elijah Tatis. It's Fernando Tatis' brother. He's only 21. He got released by the White Sox. And I was like, well, another team's going to pick him up. He's only 21 years old. Like, maybe he just needs to figure it out somewhere else. But they're like, oh, he's a bust. I'm like, how could he be a bust at 21? Aaron Judge didn't make the majors till he was 25, 26 years old. Baseball's different. It's a different sport. It's not the NBA where guy goes into college and then 1 year, then he's in the pros. Mm-hmm. That it rarely happens in baseball. The Orioles, I hate to say this, you know what this reminds me of? This Orioles team? What they're building? This reminds me of those San Francisco Giants teams. They weren't great at any one thing, but they were just a well-balanced team. And the thing that put them over the top and really kickstart that dynasty was a little catcher named Buster Posey. He commanded respect. He was a Golden Spikes Award winner at Florida State, just like Rochman was. Top pick in the draft. Great defensively, great offensively. I think Baltimore, with the right mix of veterans and youth, they can be ultra competitive for the next 5 to 8 years. My biggest concern about the franchise is the ownership and their willingness to spend or at least extend their core players. Frank, what do you think about what I said? The comparison with the Giants and whatever else?
That's an interesting comparison. That's something I thought about. The funny thing about those Giants, like you said, they had one star player they built around. I mean, they had a couple guys, but I'm saying you had Posey. They had some good pitching.
Yep.
They just had guys that role players, guys that just did their job. You know, they just went out there every day and did what they had to do. And they won those 3 World Series based on the strength of their pitching and then just playing game well, timely hitting. I mean, I'll shout out my buddy Dino, biggest San Francisco fan, who called that famous walk-off home run in the NLCS in 2014, Ishikawa. Yeah, like you had guys like that, guys you wouldn't think of coming up big, which does happen in October, as we know. But
it does happen.
but they just like you couldn't put your finger on one thing why this team was successful, but they were some of their parts. Much like you can say a lot of some of those Yankees dynasty teams were in the 90s. Obviously, they had a core there, but well, Jeter was the guy. You could say every night there was a different guy coming up.
It's not all about superstar players.
Yes, which is we've seen, I think, on occasion. Why we've seen a lot of teams recently that won the World Series are mostly teams that got hot at the end of the year, like the Braves last year.
Yeah.
There hasn't been too many. There's been some super teams like the Red Sox in 2018 who won like 108 games, I believe, and they steamrolled their way. The Astros in 2017. We won't discuss anything more about them, but you know what I'm talking about. These teams that were hot a whole year and then they went in there and steamrolled. But you see a lot of these teams just kind of come out of nowhere. The Nationals in 2019, that what were they? They were like more than 10 games under 500 at one point.
They didn't have Bryce Harper.
Didn't have Bryce Harper. They let him go, and they win it all that year.
Juan Soto just developed.
They brought it up quick, and that was it. I know what you just said about how not every players come up that quickly, but some guys do, and you got to be able to make that decision.
If you and Anthony Rendon had the postseason of anyone's career, and obviously he parlayed that into his huge deal with the Angels.
Yeah. You had these guys. You had Howie Kendrick having like a late run in his career.
Oh God.
A guy who used to drive me crazy when he's with the Angels, always killed the Yankees. But yeah, dude had a postseason that's pretty incredible.
Now, I'm going to bring up the top prospects for the Orioles.
Mm-hmm. I think we discussed a couple episodes.
For the viewers at home.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Grayson Rodriguez, AAA. He could pitch right now in the majors. Gunnar Henderson, shortstop, third baseman. Essentially, next year, he'll be up. Kowser, he'll be up next year. Hall can pitch this year in the majors, and I think he has. Westberg, another shortstop next year. Stowers could play right now. All these guys within 2 or 3 years are slated. So this gives them the flexibility to, obviously call them up, plug a hole. Like you trade Mancini, cool. I got Kowser coming up, could fill that spot. Mm-hmm. I have Santander, who I might want to move in the offseason. I have another spot. Or next year at the trade deadline, instead of being sellers, there's a big bat, there's a big pitcher available, and we're in the pennant race. We could trade a king's ransom of prospects that we've built up over the last 5 years to acquire the piece that's going to put us over the top. Because you always need that one move that puts you there. The 96 Yankees, they went out and they made a trade for Cecil Fielder it was Ruben Sierra, right? And Cecil, he actually did pretty well for us in the World Series. He wasn't bad. We didn't necessarily need him, but it helped.
He started those games in Atlanta and actually had a game-winning hit in that famous Game 5. It was 1-0.
Right.
So that like you said, that was a move, as you said. That's another reason why you want to build these prospects up. They're not all going to make it up there. They could be trade bait, which is something teams need to remember. As we brought to bring it back, what we said earlier about Volpe. Prospects look great, but rings look better.
Yeah, you can't marry these prospects because what ends up happening is you keep them too long to where they lose value. And I could speak about that. Andujar, Clint Frazier, Florial.
Yeah.
All those guys, they lost significant value. There's other teams where they do the same thing. Like you look at Seattle, Kyle Lewis, after his rookie year, they could have traded him. They could have got a lot for him. They held on to him. Now he can barely play because he got injured. But again, you overvalue these young guys, and some of them don't ever pan out. Clint Frazier, that guy they should have got rid of after, what was it, 2020?
Yeah, when he had like he was in the conversation for a Gold Glove, which was you could tell that year was messed up. But I mean, you think about him. The reluctance to move him is one of the reasons why they didn't get Garrett Cole in 2018, 2019, I should say.
They could have won a World Series, but for me personally, and it's getting back, like, I want to see the divisions as competitive as possible. The American League East right now is clearly the best division, top to bottom in baseball. And if Baltimore and their ownership can get on board, spend some money, build around the young catcher as the centerpiece of the franchise, along with Cedric Mullins, who's a very underrated player as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little bit older. I think he's around 28. They have two nice position players there. They have other pieces that are nice. They have lively arms. They have help coming. Get them some more help. Get them another veteran. For all we know, they can pick up Trey Mancini again. I mean, he's a free agent, but I don't know. What's your thoughts, Frank? Do you like when the division is more competitive? Yeah, again, like it's there was many Yankee teams and when the division wasn't good and their record would get ballooned where you're like, oh, they won 103 games. And you look like, but Baltimore only won 62.
Yeah.
And the Blue Jays won 70. And Tampa won 75. And then Boston won 90. And it's like, well, we didn't really have much competition. I would rather go into the postseason and be a 93 win team, but we've had battles with the teams in the division. So we're battle tested going into the playoffs and not we cakewalked the last 2 months of the season into the playoffs. And then, oh, by the way, we got to face a team like Seattle. We got to face a team like Houston, and we just get steamrolled.
We've seen it. We've seen it happen many times with the division, like you said, not being as strong. It is good, like you said. It's right now, like you said, it's top to bottom, the strongest in baseball. If the Red Sox hadn't fallen off a cliff this last month, you could say even more so.
Mm-hmm.
With the Orioles doing what they've done, and they continue to do what they've done, it's important, as you said, to be battle tested. And there's been too many teams like that. I mean, I'll go back to I think 10 years ago, 2012 Yankees. The Orioles, they had a big lead. The Orioles cut into it, came really close. I think we finished 2 games ahead of them.
Yep.
And then he wound up battling him in a 5-game ALDS Classic Series. Unfortunately, it didn't get him ready for that series with Detroit when Jeter broke his ankle and everything went down the drain. But a season like that, you more or less will prepare you
correct
for these big games. And unfortunately, honestly, right now, the Yankees, who I think have now blown the lead, by the way, shocking. They seem to be in this mode where they're just they're getting ready for October. We're in August. Yes, they're pretty safe. I'm not saying you have to win every game. You want to rest some guys once in a while. That's cool, but these aren't meaningless games.
No.
You don't start off 52-18 and then struggle to win 90 games, which I know might be a little ridiculous considering the schedule they got coming up. But hey, it's very possible the way the bullpen's been blowing games and the way they've been struggling at points. Most teams that start off that fast and do not finish like this. This is why they were getting comparisons to those big teams, because usually when a team starts off like that, they're going to regress a little. Not everybody's going to be a 110-win team, but I mean,
the big issue is even with the way the wild card and the playoffs are formatted this year. Let's say the Yankees advance to the championship series against presumably Houston, and we're the number 2 seed. I don't want to go to Houston.
No, and if you're gonna have to win a series like that, you're gonna have to win all your home games, which is what the 2019 team did not do, which they did in 2017. It was all home wins for either team, and then 2019 they won. They stole that first game and couldn't win that second one, and that turned out to be the big killer in that series.
Verlander right now is almost unhittable.
Yeah, ridiculous. Coming off the surgery at his age, ridiculous, guys. This man is like superhuman. I know he got paid a big money for 1 year contract. It was worth every penny, obviously.
The Yankees were in on him. So was Toronto.
Apparently, yeah. And they were willing to give him that big money, too. So it shows they knew what they had to do, that they should have got it done. Just like the Mets want to make sure they gave Scherzer as much as he wanted, shorter contract.
Yeah, they're like, you want $45 million a year?
You could have done that. You tell me Cashman couldn't have done that? I know Hal could open up the wall a little bit more. I know people thought, he doesn't want to come to New York. I said, he will if his money's right.
He went to New York.
He went to New York. I mean, he wants to win and he wants to write money. So, hey, and that's like what I want to say is the second time they've missed on him, when he was first a free agent, and when he was up for trade as well, and they didn't do it. So,
and I like Garrett Cole, but we overpaid significantly for Garrett Cole
because they didn't get anybody else, and he was the only guy available. Yeah, everybody wanted them, and they wound up, I think, outbidding themselves.
And it worked perfectly for the Yankees because they had CC's money coming off.
Yes,
and it was like, cool, we can budget in an extra 10 to 15 million for Cole because CC's contract is now gone. Boom, that's our.
You have to make that move every day. Everybody was in on him. You had to make that move, but you have to supplement that move. They haven't done that. Cole paired with Verlander in Houston did very well.
They thought Sevy was that guy, but again, you mismanaged him. You can't let your pitchers dictate to you how much they're going to pitch. And it seems like with Severino, and this is just me speculating, I'm not a Yankee insider, I'm not a baseball insider.
Yeah.
I read body language like a champion.
Right.
His body language screams to me that he is a very, very much a me guy. He is not a team guy. There's plenty of times where it looks like he doesn't want to come out of a game. They don't pull him, and it's burnt them. You got to pull him from a game. You got to skip him a start. He came out and was upset that they put him on the 60-day DL. Dude, you were going to be out for 53 days projected. What's the big deal to get put on the 60 days?
Yeah, and then that reaction, honestly, I was thinking of saying along lines of you, that's definitely a self-centered type reaction. And quite honestly, he's a free agent at the end of the year. I wouldn't be throwing big money for him to come back.
I would not. And again,
and I know
a team looking for a lively arm.
Sure.
And we're talking about the Padres. That could be a guy that go ahead, go get him. I guarantee you the Yankees will extend the qualifying offer on Soriano in hope that he doesn't take it and walks, and then we get the draft compensation for him. I feel like Sevy, Sanchez, and I love the guy, but I think he's one of them. I hate to say it. I think you know where I'm going. Glaber.
Yeah.
They're all going to have to – they're all – I mean, Sanchez is gone, but Sevy and Torres are going to have to go.
Yeah, and I think they know it too.
They're not the right mix for this team. If Torres – I've seen him make some unbelievable plays at second this year. Unbelievable. And it seems like he wants to make the spectacular play, and he concentrates when he knows that, hey, this could potentially be a Sports Center play. I get my name up there in the highlights. But when it comes to routine play, he's just not in. He's not in it. Yeah. That's not the type of players we need in the field. It's very much like Robbie Cano 2.0. We don't need it. Even if we win the World Series, I would like to see both of those guys go.
And
that's my hot take.
the fact that there was even discussions about him leading up to the trade deadline makes me think they understand that too. And I think that year he had 3 years ago in 2019 messed with his head. He's trying to be a power guy. He's had a nice bounce back season, but I think you're right. It's just not a fit. You can't be making routine plays look bad, and then make great crazy plays. It's just
I've seen him. I've seen him make these unbelievable plays, and I'm like, where is this when it comes to routine play at second?
Not only that, he also has a habit of not hustling.
The base running mistakes. Oh my god!
And you can see it in Boone's face that he doesn't like it, and he knows. So I mean, and it's not like he's a rookie anymore. 4 years in the league now, 5 seasons.
Well, we have a hard out here.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap it up. Anything you want to say to the audience, Frank?
Sure, guys. Thanks again for all your support. I'm loving all the comments we're getting. Let us know what you guys think about this new playoff format. These teams that are in the bubble, what do you think is going to make it in? What do you think about what we said about the Padres? What about the Orioles and the comparisons to the Giants? And what do you think is going to happen? We got 2 more months left, I think, because I think the season goes into October. Yeah, so quite a bit of baseball left.
Yep, and let us know if there's like a topic that you want us to talk about, or something that we've talked about before that you want us to bring up again that maybe you didn't understand completely. Let us know. We're around 440 subscribers. Like, I'm at a loss for words. Like, I check and I go, oh my god, like we just gained another 2 people. Like, that's great. Share, like, subscribe. As you can tell, we changed the setup. We make it look nicer. This is something that we love to do. We love to talk about sports. We love to talk about wrestling. I obviously host, card break night pre-shows. This is all about having fun. But, the best way to support us is by the comments, by subscribing, by sharing. That all means more than anything else. With that being said, good night and good luck. See you in the breaks.